Hey everybody, welcome to a video where I'm just going to talk through my opinions of the first tech beta of Overwatch 2. I'm recording this on the final day of the beta. I've played most days. I don't know exactly how many hours. In fact, can I tell how many hours? Probably not, right? They probably don't have that feature in the game right now. Yeah, you can't go into your career profile. So, I'd say roughly maybe 20 hours or something, there or thereabouts, maybe a little bit more. Maybe I'm underestimating it a little bit. And in general, I think it's been fun. Which isn't really what I think most people were hoping for the beta. I think they were hoping this was going to be a transformative experience from Overwatch 1. I think this is the casual take of it. You know, there were a lot of memes about it being just a patch for Overwatch 1. I think that's a little bit unfair. Sure, like, the core gameplay experience is the same. Like, you're pushing an objective, you're in a team match, coordination helps you, like, that's no difference. And the major difference between the two games has been, you know, the removal of one tank. Going from 5v5 to 6, sorry, from 66 to 5v5. I, in my opinion, as someone who played a lot of Overwatch 1 as well, feel like this is a pretty dramatic change to the gameplay experience. Enough that I kind of don't want to go back to the original 6v6 now. And this kind of surprised me because when they first announced they were going 5v5, I hated the idea. I thought it was pretty lazy design on the part of the Overwatch team. And I felt like it was the main reason, and I still, to this day, think the only reason, and the main reason that they wanted to do this was because the DPS queues were so long, and tank queues were really short. So if you remove a tank player off the field, you can run more lobbies, and you'll get more DPS players playing, and the queue will be faster. I think this was the predominant reason behind the change for 6v6 to 5v5. There are other reasons, like balancing reasons. Like, I don't feel like they ever could balance double shield metas. But there were solutions to that. You could have separated the tanks, and this is probably what I would have done if I was in their position. I would have separated into... I mean, you could have used the terminology as well that Overwatch 1 teams use, like the off-tank and the main tank. Have the shield tanks in their own category, or like limit shield tanks to one per team. If you remember very early Overwatch, it'd give you warnings, like, in your team compositions, like, oh, you're missing a support, or you're missing a, you know, a tank player. I think they could have limited it. If you picked Erisa, like, you can't pick Ryan, you can't pick Sigma, you can't pick Winston. You have to be able to pick, like, another one of the off-tanks. Wrecking Ball is this little, like, you know, thing in the middle. Who knows what really Wrecking Ball is. But in general, you pick one shield tank, and I don't think that would have been as impressive to play against. Now, you'd still eventually have balancing issues. At the end of the day, you still have the tanks as these, like, 500, 6 HP targets. They were just bullet sponges, frankly. And it was really obnoxious to play for the DPS. Because the tank players were generally just better DPS players. Like, we've had metas where D.Va was just an assassin. And if you were, like, you know, a soldier on the high ground, D.Va just flies up to you, DMs you, uses the micro missiles, and just, you know, 200s to zeros you in no time. But what I do miss, and I think is a bit lacking from the Overwatch 2 beta experience so far, is the tank synergies. And I don't even just mean as tank synergy anymore. Like, sure, like, Ryan Zarya was really fun to play. You'd bubble your Ryan would go in, he could, like, swing away, like, free knowledge he wasn't taking damage. You'd get energy on the Zarya because he's swinging in, and, like, they're forced to, like, you know, engage on him. And then you'd burn down the enemy Ryan shield, and then eventually you'd get, like, 90 energy, get nanoed maybe or something, and just beam the team down with, like, your angry hornet nest gun. That's gone now. And I feel like it's lacking for generally the team comps now in general. Like, if you pick your one tank, let's say you pick your Winston, there are things you want to pick on the DPS role. For example, you might want to pick dive here. So you might pick Tracer, you might pick some Sombra, you might pick Genji or something so that they can engage on the dive. You might then say from the support line, the things that complement it most is the Lucio, like to speed you in. Or a Moira that can, you know, fade in with you as well, so you can just go around as like a death ball. There are definitely, like, you know, certain team comps which are more optimized based on, like, the tank and the supports you pick. But I just don't feel like there's that same, like, you know, level of playmaking there was before. I think it's more of an individualistic type thing. So there's a lot of games I've had Whereas I think in Overwatch 1 I could kind of like carry, especially if like both tanks were on the same wavelength. We picked like a good tank combo, we were like synergizing, like maybe bubbling the Winston, or we're doing halt hook combos. That even if your DPS was weaker, you could still like push into the enemy team. I'd say right now that if you have like me on the DPS, for example, you're probably going to lose. Like, the DPS player has so much more value. And again, if you're a DPS player, that's fantastic news. And honestly, for a casual player, that might be really good for you. You might love that idea. The typical, the heroes who are most like a first-person shooter have more value. I would say as well that the supports have pretty insane value as well. The tanks, not so much now. A lot of them have been, like, pulled back a little bit. Winston seems insanely strong now. Like, the Owl meta has been generally just running Winston. And this is mainly because there's one less tank on the field, there's one less damage, so his bubble lives longer. So he can just, like, bubble off like an Ana or something, who's a very good source of, like, ranged healing. And, you know, what do you do about it? You try and break the bubble, but by that point, the dive has probably killed your Ana. And there's so little options to peel to help your supports. Your supports are really just, like, in the Wild West at the moment. They're just trying to fight for their lives. And again, this might suit you. It was pretty ass at times when you might run into, I don't know, Lucio Moira double shield comps. And there was so much healing, or BAP Lucio comps. There's just so much passive healing that it was so hard for the DPS players to get any value. Like, team fights would go on forever. You'd just be brawling there. It wasn't a particularly nice thing to watch. It wasn't a particularly fun thing to play as. But I wish they'd kept a bit of the coordination. Even if it meant that the DPS players almost had like an off-tank-like ability to like enable the tank play. But again, this might be coming forward. So there's still heroes we've not seen yet. This beta was very... Well, I hope it was very bare bones, honestly, from Blizzard. I kind of feel like they've missed a bit of a trick here. But you've seen all the reports, I imagine, if you've been following Blizzard news in general, or Overwatch news in particular. There seems to be a lot of like problems with this project. There's a lot of problems behind the scenes in the Blizzard management structure and how they've been treating their employees and just, you know, things that are going on there. We've all read about this. But for the time from when they've announced it, so this has been like 3 years plus from when it was announced. Like 3.5 years maybe? I was expecting more on the first beta. I was expecting like the hype to be around it. I know in the beta they couldn't really release all the heroes, like the new heroes, but I was expecting more than one. I know there's going to be more betas coming along, and there's probably going to have more heroes in that. And they better, because honestly, the amount of time they've like left Overwatch 1, the IP, to rot, I thought they were just going to like come out and just throw everything out. Maybe not, again, quite everything on the beta, but I thought they were going to go like, listen, this is all the fun new stuff. Here's like a decent snippet of some of the heroes. We're just going to check if everything looks fine. And like a month later, or how many weeks the beta was going to be, at the end of the beta, they were going to say, listen, the game is coming out this date. These will be the new heroes. This will be how you get the codes for, like, you know, joining your favourite streamers and so on. Watching Owl to get codes. If you watch, you get these skins and so on and so forth. These sprays. I thought they'd have everything, you know, under wraps. And I'm a little bit concerned right now that they feel like the changes they made for 5v5 were enough. They spent 3 years optimizing 5v5. They've accounted for the, in terms of like the hero additions, that Doom has been reworked, that Erisa was reworked, and who was the other one? Oh, Bastion was reworked as well. That they're like, okay, you're not going to get like 8 new heroes, but we've reworked 3 of them. You can't think like that. Like, the casual player just sees, you know, they see a Bastion. It's like, okay, that hero was in the game 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They don't care that his abilities have, like, been tweaked. Even though I say tweaked, they've been pretty majorly changed. But not dramatically that you wouldn't recognize the hero anymore. Definitely the one that got the most change was Erisa, and I will talk about her in detail later on in the video. But I just want to say in general, I think 5v5 has been better than I thought. It's definitely more fluid, it's more open. I think a major part of that was from the lack of stuns in the game now. That definitely you can move around more. You don't just get perma-stunned, and it feels a lot more nice to play as, I would say, even as a tank player, DPS. Not sure about support. I don't know if they've really got the greatest end of things. Like, I think they've got the rough end of everything so far. Like, they have so much less survivability that it's kind of insane. And I think it's no, like, what's the word I want to look for? No coincidence that the two main supports that have come out of this smelling pretty nicely were Lucio and Anna. Lucio has your, like, soft CC to boot people away. Anna has still got a hard CC on a skill shot, which I think is honestly the direction that you should go in with CC abilities for heroes that are not tanks. They should really require some sort of skill shot, or some sort of enabling. Like, for example, maybe like 2 combined shots cause a stun to happen. You have to hit the 2 shots, and you get it. Or if it's a headshot, you stun. Otherwise, you don't. And this is on like an ability or something. I think there are ways to balance CCs around other heroes. And I think they will need to add CC. It's a necessary evil in the game. It's just the way that they balance it throughout the whole core roster. And like the counterplays to that CC, which is really going to make or break the game in that regards. Because I think if you just go for the pure shooter like strategy, I'm not sure that Overwatch is the experience that the pure shooter wants. And I feel like they definitely have geared it towards that more. So I do have a lot of concerns right now. What else did I want to mention? Yeah, I think that's generally it. I think this is the TLDR as early on. I think if you were a prior Overwatch player, that this has been probably pretty fun. You know, actually new content, the new maps have been pretty fun to play. The new game mode has been fun to play. But I think, like others, I was hoping more. And what I feel like Blizzard was out of touch on this. That they thought that just casual people that have maybe not played this game since it originally launched were going to come back and see like, oh, one new hero, and look at these reworks of other heroes, and think it was transformative. Like, you have to do more than that now. Like, if you look at things like Riot are doing for, like, you know, things like Fortnite, things like Dota are doing, there's just constant, like, stuff being added to games. And this is for games where, you know, they're planning to update it for its lifetime, which is what the promise from the dev team was. And I think at the moment they've kind of slacked on it, honestly. I was expecting more, like everyone else. It's been nice that they've had these little development meetings as well on streams, but I'm not going to lie, some of the things have been pretty dull. They really need to do better with some of their outreach to other people, like hyping the game up. Like, I don't know. I just feel like they haven't hyped it up at all. Like, they just dropped the game and they're like, oh, here are the codes. This is the beta. Don't worry, there's going to be another beta. I'm worried there's another beta, because it begins to make me wonder, when is this game actually going to release? Because it's going to release with no hype if you release everything that, you know, is in the game. And the longer and longer this is drawn out, the more and more casual players will leave. They won't come back for like a 3rd or 4th time. Like, they might check the beta one more time and go like, okay, you added one new hero again. You've added one new map or something. This isn't transformative enough. It's the same game. I know I don't like it. I'm out. And you can already see that from the appeal from when this beta launched. I think on Twitch it had like 1 point something million viewers on the opening day. And then by like day 2, it dropped dramatically. And by like 3 or 4 days later, it was at 20k. And they just, I don't know, it just feels like, if you're going to do a beta like this, and it's like, this is the big relaunch of Overwatch, we're rebranding it as Overwatch 2, these are the changes we're making. We're making it more fluid, we have a new game mode, we have new heroes, we're going more FPS focused, so like, you can carry more on the DPS. I feel like they needed to go like, okay, here's the beta launch, this is how you get into the beta, watch our streams, bam, that's fine, that's a good first step, I approve. Then it has to be something like, okay, if you keep watching from now on, you're going to get like a skin or something, a very specific skin associated with the game. Okay, that seems fun. Then maybe another stage where it's like, okay, you're still following, you're still watching. We're going to release like a competitive mode. But first of all, it's going to be, you know, restricted to a few people. and then, you know, you get the more people appealing to it, then you maybe don't go for the watch anymore. You just go like, listen, we're going to have another hero dropping in the beta. We're happy with how things are balanced at the moment. Maybe drop a balance patch with it for anything else that needs changing. And, you know, you just keep, like, you keep making people not want to leave the game. But right now, again, the beta dropped. They have patched the game twice. And again, I want to talk about the patches, admittedly, in a little bit later on in the video. But I just feel like they've just let the hype die down again. Like, it's crazy. And they've still not said when the next beta's coming out. It's going to end today. Who knows how long. If it's like a month, they're crazy. It can't be like a month. This, honestly, I feel like it has to be of the order of days. Maybe a week if they do something like major, like they add a new hero and new content. But you can't just let this game, like, idle here forever in the beta. Like, this isn't a small indie game where it comes out in early access. And, you know, you keep working on it. It's like a side project. You know, this is Blizzard. It's one of the major game companies. But again, obviously there has been mismanagement behind the scene. But I'm really concerned with, like, the way this is generally being handled. And I'm still scared for how it goes forward. I love the game, so I will definitely keep checking this out. But it's so frustrating because at times, when Overwatch is at its best, when you have like a close game and people in comms and people working together, it's so fun. It's so much fun. It's like, it's crazy. I love like the lore behind some of the heroes. I like the setting. I like the character design. I think the new character Sojourn who they've added, honestly, is really cool. I like the game design. I like that you have a skill shot potentially, in fact, many skill shots. Your left click, which charges your right click is a one-off big damage move. I like she has a big movement ability. Everyone likes moving around the map. That's fun. I would say your ultimate is a little bit, meh, but you know what? I think for the entire character design of the hero, it's fine. I think this is great character design, honestly. We don't know much else about the lore, but as they add more lore to the game, that's going to be fun. But obviously lore isn't for everyone. So you have to keep making sure the game is fun. Now I know that they promised the PvE part of it, and I've heard, you know, all the rumours around the grapevine that Blizzard basically have been working solely on the PvE aspect, and we're not taking like the PvP aspect as seriously. Honestly, that's kind of foolish. I think the end goal for this game should be almost something like, in terms of like their own intellectual property, something like Hearthstone, where you have this core gameplay experience that everyone enjoys. And instead of adding like booster packs, you add heroes to the game. That seems fine, that seems logical. And you keep maybe like changing like some heroes up a little bit, changing the damage numbers, just to make things like come into flavour and out of flavour and so on and so forth. And then you have, instead of like what they call like the adventures, you have like the PvE adventures. And that'll bring people to the game, maybe have like, you know, skins associated with it, voice lines, sprays, maybe like specific gun skins even. Like we have gold gun skins and they've just, you know, left it, they've abandoned it basically. Why not have all the gun skins associated with events? Like, you know, you complete the reclamation of Overwatch and you get some plasma rifle from like the Omnics or something. That'd be really cool. Like that makes you want to play the PvE, it makes you want to like, you know, join in with multiple friends, try and set high scores maybe. That could be really, really cool. But I think you still have to appreciate that the main player base is going to be on the PvP aspect. And I think in that regards, you have to make the PvP aspect free. A lot of games have done it. As I understand it, and I don't think they've ever confirmed this yet, that Overwatch, if you have Overwatch 1, you'll be able to just go straight to Overwatch 2 without paying for it or something. But I think it's fair enough that if you keep bringing forward these expansions that have, like, maybe new heroes as part of the lore of the adventure, people will pay for those adventures. I don't know how long it'd have to be for, like, the cost. It's hard to really say for Hearthstone expansions because they don't quite work the same as they used to. As the adventure's kind of like bundled in now, I think, a lot of the time. But let's say it's like £15 and they give you maybe 4 or 5 PvE missions with maybe some like sort of modifiers for like the difficulty. I think, and then like, you know, you add a new hero inside the lore, but the hero obviously goes into PvP as well for free. And maybe even, oh, you know what, the way they should do it? Have the new character in the PvE, so that people play the PvE, they want to play it, and then put it out in PvP maybe a week later or something, so you can practice the character in PvE, so that you're ready just to automatically play into like competitive and stuff. You could generate so much hype behind that, and like Blizzard have the resources, they have the teams behind it, their animations are gorgeous, and they just feel like they've dropped the ball on this one. It's kind of crazy. I'm hoping, as I said, they can get, you know, I say get their heads around it. I hope people can come in who can get their heads around it and like rekindle this IP, because I don't think it's gonna survive, honestly, at the moment. At the current pace, they really need to, you know, they just need to work on building hype, building like relationships, building with the streams and stuff. Say, listen, this is the content we're gonna bring forwards. This is why you want to play this game. This is why it's like, you know, maybe transformative from other games of its type. Like the lore behind it, the art design, the character design. It could be huge. Anyway, let me go to other things that have changed. So one of the things that's changed is the sound design. I think in general the sound design is fantastic. I think the change has been good. Most noticeably on Soldier, who I'm playing right now, or Soldier 76, if you don't know his full name. His gun does sound more meaty. Admittedly, in the training range, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't sound as meaty as in a game. I don't know why. The other one I really like is Widow's, who actually sounds like she's firing bullets now. That's very nice. But again, this is kind of like the most core like gameplay of the game. Doesn't really matter about the sound design that much. Other than, you know, it's working and there are sound bugs in the game still. Like heroes' sound effects getting overwritten, like their footsteps, someone sneaks up behind you, and you just don't hear it. That needs to be sorted out, but again, it's the beta. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to sort it out eventually. But in general, I think the sound they've added to new weapons, like Erisa's gun sounds pretty good as well. Strangely, I thought Hanzo's arrow was one of the ones I didn't like, but it sounds pretty normal right now. I felt like it sounded a little bit too, like it was a laser rifle or something. But, you know what? I'll give everything the benefit of the doubt. The sounds pretty good. But if you ask, like, you know, a gamer, what would you prefer? Like, sound design, graphics, or gameplay? I think 99% of people would want the gameplay. The graphics and the sound are somewhat secondary. They kind of elevate the core gameplay experience to maybe new levels. But I'd have rather they showed more content than, like, the sound design stuff. But it's nice to add, so I can't really, like, bitch and moan about it. What else was good? Okay, the maps generally I think are good. And I'm going to use the word generally here. I think Midtown is fantastic. I think it's in the top 25 percentile of maps. I think it's really fun. I like the design of it. I think it catches the essence of like America and New York City very well. I'm very, very, very happy with like what they've done in Midtown. I think the map is fun as well. Like, you have, you know, not huge sightlines, but long enough that you can make snipers work, but still be able to get onto flanks and pressurize them. Like, on the second point, for example, you can go down the corridor on the far left. You can kind of, like, hide over the wall on the right and get into the back line as, like, a flanker. So, I think it rewards multiple play styles. And honestly, under, like, the car wash type section, the bridge or the arch, whatever you want to call it, the plateau, you could run like a rush company there. Like, I've been trying to run May on that point in a future video. And it's not absolutely awful, but you have to, like, push it around that first corner first, and you can get caught out quite easily. It might make you, you know, swap your comp around. The final point, the third point, I think is more, you know, sniper-based. But it reminds me of King Row, that there's, like, a corner, a hard corner you play around. And I think, again, you're going to have a lot of contrasting styles. I think it's honestly just great design, that map. I really, really like it. Colosseo and New Queen Street. I like the map design. This is what I'm going to say about that. I prefer I think, New Queen Street out of Colosseo. I don't like the very end of Colosseo, but I understand why they've done it for push. Because they want to make the map harder and harder to push as you go along. But that bit where you arch around, like, under the bridge and then back over again, and it loops around itself, is so hard to push through, it's crazy. And honestly, if you get in a game and someone pushes through there, basically, you know you're onto a loss. Because it's so hard to match it. It's just incredibly difficult. New Queen Street, I don't think has that same problem. I think generally it's easy to push towards the end. I've definitely had more completions on New Queen Street than I have on Colosseo, and being completed against, and had games where both teams have pushed like 90 meters or whatever it is. I can't remember exactly now. It's like 100 and something meters the map, isn't it, for New Queen Street? Like, we've pushed it basically to the final corner, and like another team has matched that, which is, you know, pretty fun. There's a lot of flanking angles, a lot of windows. I like the map. The game mode I'll talk about later, though. Again, because I think it has a few issues. The final map that they've shown so far, and I'm aware that there's going to be other maps being added. They've announced, like, in the past that there's going to be a Rio map. We've seen clips of it. That looks pretty fun. I can't remember the other one. It was like Sweden. Was it Stockholm? I can't quite remember. That one has been announced as well. I'm hoping there's more than just those ones, though, that are coming along. Like, I hope, again, there's another, like, hybrid, another escort, and so on, and another few pushes. I think they said they were going to release 4 pushes, and I think Rio's not a push, so... yeah. Lots of maps is always, you know, more fun, more variety. Variety is the spice of life. But, yeah, the one map I think is the outlier on this is Circuit Royale. I hate that map. I think it's awfully designed. I think aesthetically it's fine. But I think every single point is ass. It reminds me so much of Havana. And after some of the backlash they received of Havana, I'm astonished that they okayed this map. I didn't, like, make some tweaks. I don't know how long it's been in development for. Maybe this was, like, a map they were considering releasing for Overwatch 1 and eventually got bundled into Overwatch 2, considering it's an escort map. But the first point is just a long sight line. It's exactly the same as Havana. Massive long sight line. What is great there? Snipers. What can't you do easily on that map? Flank. So you can't get flankers easily on the snipers. It becomes a snipe off. Whoever has the better sniper wins. And that means your supports have very little impact unless you're playing something like Zen, who's more like a long range DPS almost with his right clicks. And it kind of forces the tank onto something like Sigma. You have to, like, you know, just put a shield out, otherwise you're going to get mowed down. This isn't as a huge problem in, like, you know, the lower SR brackets, which honestly is where, like, I belong. But I've still had games, like, on camera and I think off camera as well, where legitimately they've had a Widow that is just so much better than anyone on our team. They out DPS or, like, DPS, like a flankers can't get on them. They swap sniper and they can't match them. And the game is over. You just don't have any say. And I think that's a really unhealthy place for the game to be, where you can't swap to a hero to counter a hero because of the map design specifically. Or even just, like, the hero pool. Like, you might say Sigma, you know, counters it. You're not really countering the Widow, though. You're just trying to keep yourself alive a bit longer. You're not denying her from, like, jump shopping. You can't do that. All you're doing is really saying, like, I'm going to put this shield here. Until it breaks, I'm going to limit your sight lines. And that is your only option. That's kind of not really, you know, it's not that fun, honestly, in my opinion. Then the second point is just, it's like Eichenwalde second. Ike, at least you can go inside the castle and there's more room. You can, like, break out of multiple different areas of the castle. On Circuit, you can go inside and, like, through the subway section. But it's just a single choke, so it's so rough to go through anyway. It's like coming through the doors on Gibraltar second. It's so hard to do. As you know you're going to, like, be held in the choke. Like, there's going to be someone far away sniping you. Maybe not the same, actually, for Circle Royale. There won't be someone sniping you. But, like, there'll be Cassidy throwing in his magnetic grenades. You might be running into a hand zone. He's just storm arrowing down the corridor. Then you might eventually have a dragon and just shoot it down there and you're all dead. it's so rough pushing into like massive high ground, and then you give the defenders an advantage of having like the barrier as well. It's so like hard to push into sometimes. There are occasions where I've just been like, we've capped the first point by like some miracle, like our winners had a pick, and then we just get stuck at seconds, and it feels impossible to push. And then finally the third point, and I think this honestly has like one of the biggest problems of them all, reminds me of Hanamura's second. It's like, honestly, Circuit Royale is just a showpiece of the worst map designs and other maps. The first bit is like Havana first, which is a pretty awful point. The second is like Eichenwald the second, but with a little bit less, you know, ability to break out of it, in my opinion. Like, you have to break out through tiny chokes. And there's not that many ways to do it, really. I know you can go up the stairs as well. Honestly, the second point I have the least amount of problems with on Circuit Royale, but I still think it's not a great map choice. Like, map design choice. And then on the third point, the first corner's fine. Like, there's no real issue with that. The defenders and offenders can get some form of high ground advantage. You can, like, fight around, like, the pillars, you can fight around, like, packs and so on. It's not too bad. I think it's fairly equal. You always want your map to be a bit defensive-sided, but I feel like they go overboard a lot of the time. And I still think that first corner is somewhat defensive-sided, but if you, like, you push forwards quickly, an attacking team can definitely, like, swing it in their favour. But the problem is the final point. The very final part of the third point. Because the only way to access the high ground for the attacking team, if you're not a hero with, like, flight, is going through the balcony area via the swimming pool. And that is just a single door. It's a choke point. It's basically the Hanamura door again. Like, you know, everyone will try and get up those stairs, and either onto the balcony area or on the higher balcony. And it would just be ass. Like, you'd play May, you'd play Junkrat, you'd spam down there. Okay, it's not as tight a choke, but you still have to get through this little tiny door, and it's so fucking obnoxious to push into that if someone's running spam. If they like, again, you're running Echo and I'm just doing that, you can just chunk down a team for 150 damage. No aim, just spam. Like, the spam is so strong. And then if you want to push the payload, one poor soul is going to have to sacrifice themselves to be on the low ground. Whereas the defenders have, like, two forms of high ground. They have, like, a mini high ground at, like, this type of height, maybe a bit lower, actually. There's, like, one here or something. And then they have another one all the way up here, and they're just shooting down on you. You're, like, trying to play around the cart, which is very small, because it's, you know, based around the Formula 1 car. They're just shooting you in the ass, like, throwing stickies at you, while the rest of your team is trying to push through the high ground into, like, a 5v4. It's just so obnoxious. And basically you have to play either on the point and force them down to fight you onto the point, or you have to put, like, a sacrificial lamb on there, like the Tracer or someone like that, and they just push the cart through and try and survive from the onslaught of attacks from the high ground. Overall, I just think the map is really poor. It feels very linear, not a lot of flanking routes, long sight lines. I don't like it. I know, again, you want some variety in map design, but I figured after, you know, you've released Junkertown, great sniper map. Rialto, really good sniper map. What was the thing? Havana, the best sniping map. Well, not the best, but one of the best, especially the third point. It's kind of crazy for snipers. So they would go, okay, we're going to look at formula of the maps that people like. They really like King's Row. It has winding corners, not a huge defensive high ground advantage. Like, there are high grounds, but there's not a lot of cover. And the offending team have access to fight over it. But in general, it is defensive-sided, but not overwhelmingly defensive-sided. I thought they would, you know, take that knowledge and go like, okay, we're just going to copy this formula a little bit. We'll create some weird things, like, we'll create something more control center, like, where it's kind of closed, maybe, and, like, it's favorite Rhyme Play, Reaper, May. And that's how you make part of the balance in the game. But it's not just the heroes you can balance. It's the maps themselves as well. Like, it's so much fun when you, like, play a map, and maybe Erisa is the meta on that map. Like, you can brawl out, there's tight corners, there's a lot of walls that you can just javelin people into. Maybe there's, like, a boop spot and you can just push people off. And that makes Erisa viable. Then you go into another map. Okay, there's a lot of high ground. Dive is very good here. Flankers can get onto the high ground. Let's play Winston Dive. And you're just like, alright, we're going to play a Winston comp here. But if you're a counter team, you're not, like, beholden to that. Maybe there's a different strategy, like, okay, we have this nice high ground, but there's this mega we can play around or something. So we're going to play pretty far back on the high ground, and I'm just going to spam you with damage, and then I'm going to hit, like, a clutch hook, kill you, and if you damage me, I'm just going to come back behind cover. But you might give defenders a lot more territory for that. Like, you have a bit of a cost to it. Like, that's where the game is so much fun, and I think they can enable this type of thing with the hero swaps. This is really what, like, brings Overwatch out compared to something like, you know, Dota or League. The fact that you can change your comps, you can change your playstyles mid-game, and the map can influence that change of playstyle. I think in general, though, the Midtown map, very good. I think New Queen Street and Colosseo are fine. There's bits of Colosseo I think are a bit ass. There are bits of New Queen Street I think are not incredible, but I think generally that one is the better of the two push maps released so far. And Circuit Royale, honestly, I could happily never play that again, which is sad because it's only just come out. Then I think we get down to the next big change, and this was the... Actually, I'll do one quick one. The biggest change, I guess, for the heroes was the addition of Sojourn. A mixture between projectile and hit scan. I've already said my thoughts on her. I like that she has double skill shots. Her ult is a skill shot. This nade is kind of, you know, obnoxious. It makes it easy to aim. It's a slowing field. Kind of a form of CC still on a DPS. But I don't think the hero is completely obnoxious. I think they have counterplay to them. I kind of like as well, potentially, that if you run into a shield hero, you can charge this, right-click off the shield, and just melt another hero. Like, it can be... I think this hero could easily be viable. And I think now that Soldier's damage has been toned back in a patch, I think Sojourn almost operates into Soldier's, like, area. And I think they're going to fight for that spot. Who's better, Sojourn or Soldier? And you can just put patches out every so often, and maybe tweak the numbers a little bit to give you a bit of variety so that one is more viable over the other one, but both are pretty fun to play as. Right, the next major thing, other than the addition of Sojourn, this is the reworks. Let's start with the good first. Doomfist tank, this was probably the biggest change, but not the biggest rework. He still has his core abilities, like he has his punch, he has his slam, but it's now kind of combined with the uppercut in the sense that you don't have the homing meter anymore. It's more like a Winston jump, like it's locked to your camera. And you can cancel the abilities to do like insane movement tech. I think the design of these two abilities compared to what like the Doomfist core kit and his playstyle, I think were really well done. Now, I kind of like, you know, shit on Blizzard a little bit and the Overwatch design team through this video so far. I think this hero they've done like very well on. I think the rework was very well implemented. I was really hesitant about him going onto the tank role. I just didn't think he was going to fit the bill. I didn't see how you could have this hero with the lore of like the strongest punch in the game could be balanced into a tank without him becoming like, you know, as obnoxious as like a Roadhog hook one-shot combo was. But they've done pretty good. His punch has been toned back. He's got a lot of CC on it now. And this power block gives you like, you know, somewhat of a skill ability that you block damage with it. It charges your fist. It gives you more stun time. And then you're reliant on hitting these left clicks. They buff the left clicks so that they charge faster. And it becomes more of a skill-based hero. But he still retains this movement aspect of his kit, which I think was what drew most people to the Doomfist, Doomfist character. You can still do stuff like that as well. I thought they were going to remove corner punches or like, I don't know, do something about corner punches. They're still in the game. You can still like use your punch to get like some momentum into the high ground. You can cancel your slam. You can still turn punch and stuff like that. I'm not really good at turn punching, my apologies. And yeah, you can just do some like really fun movement-based combos. You can like really dive into the backline aggressively. But he does have counterplay. Like Anna is so good into Doomfist. The ability to sleep him is pretty obnoxious. And this like power block does not feel like defense matrix at all. I thought it might do when I first like, you know, saw his rework. But it doesn't. It does feel like its own unique ability. Doesn't feel like the Sigma Shift either. Doesn't feel like a Zarya Bubble per se either. I'd say it closest resembles the Zarya Bubble though, without the CC protection. And I guess the full health protection. If you're like 10 HP, I've still seen teams just mow you down. Even at 90% damage reduction. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say if you're on like 25 HP or something, or 50, you will still get mown down if you dive into a team and power block them. They'll just shoot you, and you'll die. And then his ultimate is still very similar. Lower damage on the outside of the ring, but if you hit someone with a wombo combo like that, you are rewarded. And it's pretty hard to hit that in a ring, but I think it's fair enough being on the tank role. The only thing I would say about his rework is I still think his fully charged punch without power should maybe do a little bit more damage. Like, that seems pretty mediocre for a lore of a hero of having like the strongest punch in the game. But I still think his kit kind of fits into the lore. And honestly, if you remember the Doomfist like anime cinematic, I think his power block kind of reminds me of the bit where, you know, he puts his arm up and traces shooting them all around, and then like he rips the, I don't even know what it's called, but like her blink pack off her chest. I think they made the rework tie into the lore so well in this character. I'm honestly pretty pleased with it. Bastion I'll go to next. I think they generally have improved Bastion. I think he's more fun to play. I think it was fine removing his self-healing. He has a big health pool, so he can sort of health tank things. I think his grenade is kind of fun to use. I think being able to roll around like this and it not being permanent, again, is more fun. I think it's more interactive. It gives you moments of downtime where you can like approach the Bastion and he's nowhere near as scary. But equally you can burst out and, you know, do a lot of damage. The bit of the Bastion rework I'm not so fond of is his like, I don't know what it's called, like the artillery cannon mode. Configuration artillery. I think it feels really weird. Maybe it's just because, you know, it's a new ability and I'm so used to like having tank mode. But like, it just doesn't feel like it fits in with the lore at all. Not that the cannon mode I suppose really fit in either. But it feels like it steps on Doomfist ultimate too much. And like, everyone can just dodge it so easily. I find it odd that it does self-damage to yourself as well, because, you know, like, Junkrat's Tire doesn't, so why does... And they generally move this for most abilities in the game that they can't hurt their own target, like Diva Bomb. I don't know why they added the Bastion's ult, but it's pretty niche scenarios where you're going to ult yourself. But yeah, I think it feels kind of... It feels like it could have gone on to a different hero, is what I'd say. It doesn't really feel like it's a part of his kit. It doesn't feel like a part of his lore. But I haven't got a huge issue with it. I think generally like his neutral gameplay feels really fun. This grenade is kind of fun. Doesn't do insane amount of damage. But it's always fun, you know, someone runs around the corner and you bounce off the wall and hit them and kill them. That's pretty fun. But yeah, this like artillery strike, I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be so easy to dodge. It's going to be one of those abilities that I feel like is either OP or unusable. I don't think they're ever going to be able to balance it that easily. But we'll see what they do. It's still the beta. They're still messing about with the numbers. I think Bastion could be in a better spot at least. And I don't think, again, the game is ever in a healthy state if certain heroes are meta. I don't think it's healthy that Bastion should ever be meta. Viable and fun to play, yes. More fun to play against as well. I think he is. But I don't think you can have a hero with like that much like sustained burst damage be meta ever. I think it's just obnoxious. Similarly, I don't think Mage should ever be meta in every single map. It's just obnoxious to play against. Like the walling off heroes. The freeze on the ult is still pretty obnoxious. But they have toned down her CC. The final one I want to get to now, I say the final one. The main final one I want to get to now is Erisa. Erisa has had the biggest changes. The only ability that really stayed for her was Fortify. Even her primary fire was kind of changed to this heat meter. And I like the heat meter for the ammo. I think this is really fun. I think it's something that can be easily toned back as well. Like I think it recharges or like cools down too quickly right now. Like there's no real worry about ever overheating. Like look how long I have to fire for to get into the overheating status. It's crazy. And then it cools down again really quickly afterwards. It's like, it's not a huge punish window. There is, but it's not big. But again, it's the beta. They can tone that back. What I think is ass is how they've changed the hero compared to the lore and how the hero actually plays as. I think this Javelin makes no sense for the hero. This hero is designed as, the protector. It's a defender. Literally, like, her ability is like, halt. I don't want you to stop. I don't want you to pass through this space. It's not like I want to be this killing death machine gladiatorial robot. Like, there's just nothing about that. It looks so funny now with, like, her animation short stuffs and the things in the game with, like, the bongo and the pole that just aren't a part of a kit anymore. But the biggest, in my opinion, like, awful bit of a kit, the most unfun thing to play against was Fortify. And this is the bit of the kit they buffed and kept in. This never made any sense to me. I understand from a concept of wanting Erisa to be playable why you'd buff Fortify, because it's her survivability. When it was old Erisa and she had a static shield, she'd throw a shield here, and you just play behind it. If you could get behind the shield and Erisa didn't have Fortified, she was dead. She's just a huge target, big crit hitbox, and she would have to, like, shield dance, but she can't do it as well as Winston can do. And she has no other escape ability. She was just like this static being. But I think that was fine of a kit, because she had this long-range primary fire. Like, she was like, we're going to hold this space, I'm going to anchor here. If you can get across this space and into our backline, that should be Erisa's punish. That's her counter. If you get on top of her, it should be a counter. If Reaper TPs onto her, I think Reaper should be the hard counter to Erisa. I think Tracer should be a hard counter to Erisa as well, just getting across. What I don't think should be a hard counter to Erisa is stuff like Ashe and Widow, like people without, like, incredible shield break. For that reason as well, I don't think Hanzo should be, but Hanzo has got insane shield break, so he would be. But that's a different matter altogether. I think it's crazy that they kept fortifying Ketra as this brawling robot. It doesn't make any sense. I would understand if, like, they were keeping 6v6 and they're like, okay, we're just not going to release shield tanks anymore. Like, we're just not gonna have shield tanks. It's Sigma, it's Ryan, it's Winston. That's it. That's our shield tanks. Erisa, we don't want to have a shield anymore. So we've turned her into, like, this, like, brawling tank. That I could understand. But they don't have to worry of double shield anymore. It's fine to have a hero with a static shield, and I imagine they're going to release a tank eventually with Arisa's static shield. They typically reuse assets. Like, Sigma's shield is very similar to the shield Sim used to have, where, like, you could push it out. Different shape, admittedly, but I imagine they reuse some of the code in that for the Sigma shield. They're definitely going to use a shield that you can fire out. Maybe it's going to be smaller, maybe you're going to have multiple of them, like, you're just going to go, like, blam, 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 and, like, shield your team off. But I'd be amazed if we don't see that kit again. But the thing is, if you have a hero in their specific role, like a sniper is long-range hit scan, if you get on top of the sniper, they should die. You should lose your advantage there. Your advantage is range. Close range should be your weakness. The problem with some of their hero design, and this was the problem with Erisa in my opinion, is that she had great long-range spam. Like, I can't remember if they've changed the range of this primary fire, but, like, look at how I can melt things down from a distance with Erisa. Like, I could be on something like, Circuit Royale at the very end, and I could be doing that to someone. Now, I did use all my ammo to do 200 damage, but combined with other people doing long-range damage behind your shield, this is really obnoxious. This is just spam. She can still spam, but rather than having a shield now, she just fortifies instead. If someone gets on her, she fortifies. She's kind of not got a disadvantage anymore. If someone shoots her at range, she just does this and takes no damage from projectiles. If someone jumps on her, she does that. And this javelin does way too much damage. Like, I do like the idea that you have an ability that relies on the environment. Like, if I just throw a javelin at the Tracer, okay, I already hit you. Can you please die and respawn? If I just throw a javelin at the Tracer, like, I'm doing basically half the damage. So is it doing like 75 or 65 on the hit? I don't know exactly. If you hit her into the wall, it does more damage. That I'm fine with. But what I'm not fine with is that, like, you get to do the javelin, it stuns them, and then you just shoot them with the left click. And you're almost certainly going to kill a 200 HP hero with that combo. It's so similar to the Roadhog hook and one-shot combo that people hated. They hated that the tank could just one-shot someone. Why did you put it on Erisa? And what's worse with Erisa is, like, Hog can, like, has the unpunishable ability that he can just heal. And it's not unpunishable, and he can anti him, he can get slept, he can get stunned out of it. Erisa has got the unpunishable ability. She fortifies. She gains health, Why does she gain health and fortify? It doesn't make any sense. It's just stupid. Why should you get 125 health and fortify when it already makes a... Does it tell you exactly how much it reduces by? No. But it reduces it by, like, you know, 90% or something. It's crazy. You're basically unkillable in fortify. Unless, like, you're stuck inside of the Torbolt or something and you're not being healed. Like, why build the hero around her most ass ability, which is Fortify? It was 100 Fortify. And not only that, like, you like go, I've baited out Fortify, it's going to go into cooldown now. I have some time where I can just murder this battle cattle. But no, 12 seconds the Fortify goes down onto, like, a potentially life-saving ability. Almost like Lamp, honestly. Like, she can stop herself getting killed by ultimates on a cooldown. You go like, okay, I'm going to kill her now. And then she goes, nope, I'm going to do this instead. And I'm just going to run into you. I'm going to push you away with like a pretty hard form of CC. Honestly, it's not a true stun, but you can't really fight back against it. You can't shoot her. You can't kill her. It's so obnoxious. Like, you can destroy ultimates with it. And then once she's done all this and she's pushed you into the corner, what is, in theory, a skill shot becomes not a skill shot. Like, how is this a skill shot? I've pushed you into the wall. And I just throw a javelin. I missed. But you know what I mean? Like, if you're actually a competent player, you'll hit the javelin like 80, 90% of the times. And you're going to one-shot people. You're going to murder tanks and stuff. And then her ultimate. Her ultimate. If it wasn't bad enough that she had one ability that makes her invulnerable, two abilities that make her invulnerable, her ultimate gives her Fortify again. It drags you in. There's not a lot of counterplay to it. There is shielding. And it does an unbelievable amount of damage. Like, crazy amount of damage. It's basically a suck on the ultimate now. But not a projectile, it's just, you know, AoE at your feet. I don't understand. Like, why has she become this murder robot? It just doesn't fit with the lore. I think it's ass to play against. I think it's fun to play as, so well done, Blizzard. You've improved Erisa in that way. She's no longer not fun to play or play against. She's now unfun to play against, but she's pretty fun to play as. Because you can just ruin people's days. But I think, generally in parts of the kit, like this Javelin, that could have gone on a DPS hero. You could have a Javelin hero. How fun would that fucking be? The damage would have been acceptable then, because you're a DPS player. You could have even had it as, like, the stun, but maybe not. Like, the damage retained on the wall, but the stun not as long on a wall. That would be an acceptable skill shot. Like, you could put on a support or something, like Anna's Sleep Dart. It's not as punishing, but, like, you have a damage aspect of it. Like, I just feel like this kit wasn't meant for Erisa. Like, it doesn't fit with her at all. I think, combined, it's kind of ass. Personally, I think she should have kept a Suck and Shield. I think Bongos was pretty unfun to play against as well, but I didn't hate the ultimate. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if something like Bongo is released on a hero again in the future at some point. Especially a tank, because they like reusing things. I wouldn't be surprised if the little mini Suck would be used on something. Like, I just don't understand. I don't understand why they made these changes. It's Fortify that really needed removing, in my opinion, and just keeping the rest of the kit. And, like, if she gets, like, you know, someone comes on her and, like, yeah, someone comes on her and kills her, she dies. That should be her weakness. That is the counterplay. She should be good at long-range maps. And then you spam. It's not fun to play as. It's not fun to play against, but, you know. I think at some point you have to say, have the balls about it and go, like, listen, this character is a unique design. There's no other hero like it. It's kind of asked to play as and play against, but it's pretty simple to play for. And maybe just tune it in such a way that Erisa is never too strong. I think you could have just tuned the shield and eventually it would have been fine. But this, like, I don't know. I just don't think Erisa should be a death robot. I think they've got some fun abilities here. I think this is fun. I think the Javelin is fun. But I feel like the Javelin should have been on, like, different character. I think the whirling, spinning thing should have been on another tank. And I think Fortify should again been on another tank. I think none of these abilities really make sense for Erisa. And I don't think this ability should be on Erisa either. I just think none of it made any sense. So I kind of hate the rework. I think they've got it, like, pretty wrong, honestly. Alright, that's my Erisa rant done and dusted. Then the only other heroes that received, like, I'd say major changes. Mei no longer freezes on this click. Her primary. It has more ammo, I think, and it does more damage. There are scenarios where you just melt down teams with this. Control Center, for example, I'm okay with it. I understand why they wanted to remove CC abilities, and that Mei's primary was a pretty obnoxious part of it. That being said, I'm amazed they didn't do the same for Sin's turrets. The slow on the turrets is actually one of the worst things. Whenever people said, like, oh, why are you running, like, Wrecking Ball into Mei? Mei was very rarely the problem. Fucking Symmetra's turrets, though, that just have, like, an unbelievable amount of stopping power, they were obnoxious. Like, they could legitimately, like, you go to, like, create fireball speed, like, by hooking through a doorway. Sim would have a turret above the doorway, and you'd literally stop here, just stop moving, because of the slowdown on them. Like, I can't believe that she kept the slow on them, but the hero's not particularly strong anyway, and I think she's now worse without double shield. Like, she really excelled into double shield comps on very specific maps where you could, like, get a TP advantage or something like that. Now she's kind of, meh. That's basically it. And then Cassidy. Other than the name change that he got just before Overwatch 2 came out, he lost Flashbang. Flashbang, everyone got annoyed by it. You'd be a Genji, you would deflect in his face with your weave stick, and he would just do that at the ground, and, you know. You'd be stunned, because it had the insane range associated with it, and you'd be angry. But Flashbang got very good at dealing with the flankers. And it was kind of like his kit. Like, McCree was meant to be the ultimate 1v1 hero. If you were in a corridor with Cassidy, he'd flashbang you, headshot you, you're dead. So, if you ever had, like, a really obnoxious tracer to play against, you could break out the Cassidy. And it was a skill check. The flashbang, although the range was pretty obnoxious, you still had to hit the headshot afterwards. If you missed the flashbang, the advantage goes into the tracer's favour, in general. I think the design was in general fine. I think it's fine that Cassidy had a stun. I think it's fine DPS players having stuns. What's not fine is the stun being not a skill check, and I don't think Flashbang was. I think either it should have stayed the same and had like an incredibly short time on it, like it was literally like a micro stun. Even if it's like 0.1 of a second, like you could interrupt something with it. Or if you were unbelievably skilled, like and maybe tighten the range a little bit, you'd like, actually, maybe the closer you get, like, the more it stuns. But, like, still very tight. Like, 0.1 being the slowest. And maybe if you hit it, like, directly at them, it's, like, 0.3, 0.5 or something. And you immediately just, like, flashbang headshot and, like, kill them. Now this Magneto homing grenade, what's it even called? Magnetic grenade. Why? Why? Like, okay, we're going to make the game more FPS-based. So what we're going to do is going to add an ability that homes in on people and does 130 damage. Now, there is a bit of counterplay to it. It does 1 on the stick, 65 on, like, the... What is it now? 65... It's 1 when it actually sticks, 65 upon being stuck. And then once the timer ticks down, it's another 65. So it's, like, actually 131. But I have seen some, like, really obnoxious magnetic grenades. Like, I can't really get it on the bots. But I've had people, like, dash over my head, or I've dashed over a Cassidy's head, and they've literally just thrown this out, and it's, like, done a banana grenade, gone over his head and hit them. If it doesn't hit, it does 65 damage flat. I get that this was brought in as a way still to counter the Tracer, like, an ability with... Sorry, a hero with a lot of movement ability. You now just need to stick it with the grenade, and it's a body shot to kill. And I think this is true of all the 200 HP targets. If you hit them with the Magneto grenade, it's just a body shot, right, to kill. So the combo is hit, body shot, yeah, and you kill. But it's so low skill that I just think it's really unfun to play against. I don't know about other people again. I've heard, like, mixed things. I did see a clip of... the former Owl player and the presenter, Custer, talking about it, saying, like, he hated it at first, but over time... Oh, hello, Bessie. Over time, he kind of likes it, and he gets why it's a necessity in the game, and he understands from a balancing aspect. Would you like me to open the door, Bessie, so you can actually get out? There you go. I see how it does counter the flanking heroes in some regards. Like, you don't have to have insane aim. You can put a lot of pressure on them. Tracer can, like, recall and not take the full damage anyway. And you still have to hit a shot. But I just think it's really unfun to play against. But I've not got a huge issue with it, honestly. It's more like in Deathmatch where someone just hangs around the corner and does that. It's a bit boring. It's a bit of bullshit, honestly. It's the one I have the least problems with, though. I think it's something, again, that could have been in the game. I feel like it could have been on another character. And I feel like the damage can be toned back and it'll be still adequate. I think I'd prefer it to be in a situation where if it's going to be magnetic and stick to people, and pretty hard magnetic at times, that it should be a headshot kill, not a body shot. But you could tweak it in such a way that it's like just not a body shot, like you could body shot melee. I think that'd be fine as well. That is my opinion on most of the changes, like the big changes that came in. Now, we've had other additional changes since then. Soldier was nerfed. Like, on release, he was insane. He did way too much damage. They toned down his damage numbers. Well done. That is honestly completely fine. Wrecking Ball has been changed. He now boots further. This number always been here, by the way. I've never noticed that number before. But yeah, he boops like 35% further, which was a really odd change in my opinion, because this was taken out of Overwatch 1 in case you were not aware, because it's really obnoxious to play as. It's so jarring to be like CC'd by Wrecking Ball. Like, he gets Fireball. You can do like multiple boot techs as well, which is pretty obnoxious to play against. But like, just being able to knock someone miles away, like, look how far I moved that guy. He was on the boxes and I knocked him over the gap. Like, that's crazy. I can't jump that gap. Like, I knock people further than I jump. But I don't think it really makes a difference to the hero either. That's why I'm really surprised about the change. But I'm happy they're making, you know, these snap decisions to heroes that aren't particularly, you know, weren't being particularly well played, weren't liked. The pros didn't really like it. I'd have liked them to consult with, like, team managers and maybe the pro players or even ex-players about what you could do to heroes. Because, in my opinion, Wrecking Ball is a really fun tank. I like that he has this insane movement. He's hard to kill. You can set up, like, nice plays with the slams. You can slam Pulse Bomb. You could slam High Noon. It's probably one of the few tank abilities left in the game that can really combo nicely with other things. Other than, you know, like, Graviton Surge. I mean, like, as a cooldown. But I guess the problem at the moment is you haven't got the survivability, like the peel ability, is, if you will, of Winston. Like, you can put a bubble on the Ana player, which is so good versus Ana, that Winston kind of just dominates, and they have a very similar, you know, market. Wrecking Ball can cover a very short gap quickly. Winston can too. But Wrecking Ball has his survivability and his health and his adaptive shields, whereas he hasn't got it in the bubble, which other players can use, remember. So you're kind of like on your own as Wrecking Ball, whereas Winston, you're more team play based. I think Wrecking Ball will have a place in the game. I struggle to see how he'll be stronger than Winston unless they tone back his bubble considerably. Who else does they change? In fact, you know what? Let me just alt-tab a second. Let me pull up the patch notes before I forget something. Patch notes. Overwatch 2. I know the most recent ones. Overwatch. Beta. Okay. So the tank changes we had before. Soldiers changed. Sombra had a movement speed brought back. That's irrelevant. Roadhog. There we go. I remember now. So Roadhog's ultimate now is a transformation effect. It can no longer be interrupted. It's definitely a buff to Roadhog. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's incredible. I still think the ultimate kind of sucks compared to everything else. I still think Roadhog is the outlier in the tank category. That he really doesn't play like a tank at all. You are basically playing as another DPS. You might argue Zarya is very similar, but at least the bubbles you can use to, like, enable your teammates. With Hog, you're not ever enabling your teammates. You're just going on your own, on flanks, hooking people out of position, and then you murder them. If Roadhog hooked players out of position, your team had to finish them. Like, if you hook someone and they stun them in front of you, that's more like a tank ability. You've disrupted the team. Rather than Wrecking Ball that, you know, pushes people around, you pull people towards you and murder them with your team. I don't think Hog should have a one-shot mechanic. The problem with removing his one-shot mechanic is it would legitimately make Hog unplayable. Because the rest of his kit is garbage. He can't close gaps quickly. He can't really tank very well. He's just a health tank, I suppose. But your team's not going to, you know, just form a line behind you and use your body as a shield. That's just not going to happen. And you're so susceptible because, like, the other part of your, like, health cool is that you have the E, which is damage reduction plus health. If you ever get antied, you're fucked. You die. You have a huge hitbox. You're pretty easy to crit. Like, I feel like Roadhog was always meant to be, like, the most DPS of the tank heroes. But I don't feel like he was ever intended by Blizzard when he was first designed and released to ever be played as, like, your solo tank. I don't think they ever envisaged that you would be in a world where Roadhog would be a solo tank. But yeah, it's nice that the ultimate, sorry, just to show the ultimate off again, like, I could heal in the ultimate and so on and so forth. Definitely a buff, but I think it's not transformative. Other than it being a transformation ability. But I don't think it's going to make the ultimate better. But yeah, I don't think they ever envisaged that this hero would be the solo tank. And I think they have issues with the lore of the character fitting in, like, a tanking ability. Like, could you imagine Roadhog with a shield? Like, where would he put it? Where would he hold it? Like, he's got a hook in one hand, and he's primary fire in the other one. Like, his big scrap shotgun. Like, it doesn't really make sense for him to have this technological shield, because, you know, Junkrat and Roadhog, like, they're just dealing with, like, the scraps. They haven't got these fancy, hard, like, barrier shield things. They're just throwing metals together and, like, you know, explosives and doing damage. It might be that, again, the game is in a healthy spot, that Roadhog would never be meta. It is obnoxious to play against hogs that just destroy your team. There's a game that's coming out in the future, I think. Maybe it's already out, I don't remember. Where I play against a hog on Circuit Royale and my team just won't push him. And literally just stays behind our team, murdering them for most of the first point. If you just hard engage on hog, what the fuck does he do? He can't escape, he uses his E and then you kill him. And you gain like 1000 ult charge. Which is, you know, not something to be sniffed at. Sure, he has the one-shot mechanic, but there's so many ways to play around it. I don't know. I feel like Roadhog should have had a rework, or should have been moved roles. I think he should have gone into the DPS category, in my opinion. If he was going to be like this on his kit. And then maybe the hook, the cooldown changed, like, dramatically. So that he can still hook, but it's... What's the cooldown right now? It's not that long, right? 7 seconds. Maybe it's on, like, 20 seconds or something. So, like, it's a really important ability. If you hit it, you get the pick. And then it's fine to just have him as this damage hero. You change, like, his take a breather a bit so it's not so ass, like, to play against. It's not so tanky. His health pool drops down a little bit. Alternatively, I don't know. I don't think giving him armor either would help him in any way, shape, or form. I think Hog is, unfortunately, I think he's, since the 5v5 change, he's always going to be in this place that it's so hard to play him. The only reason you would play him is if his damage is so absolutely bonkers that you couldn't run, like, a shield into him in any form. Like, if you could one-shot Winston's shield, like, that was the type of damage, Roadhog would probably be played. Because he would literally put so much spam pressure on other players. You just couldn't play a tank. You couldn't play Wrecking Ball into it, you'd get one shot. You couldn't play Winston, the Ryan shield would go down in 2 hits, the Sigma shield would go down in 2 hits. You would get a Roadhog meta. But again, I don't think that's healthy for the game. But I don't think it's healthy that Roadhog's in the tank role anyway. That's my overall opinion on Roadhog. So I think the change was nice, but Winston had his secondary fire ammo reduced in cost. Strange that they buffed this hero because he is getting like 100% playtime right now. His secondary fire does 50 damage at full charge. It's a range shot. It's a skill shot to hit. It doesn't do a lot, but it's very nice for like finishing off kills. Or, if you remember, back in the heady old days of Overwatch 1, where you might be running into a comp and they're playing like over here, and you're just stood here at the corner of Winston just waiting for them to come towards you, and you're like, well, I'm just going to sit here and do nothing, and I'm going to zap you when you come to the corner. At least now you can just do stuff like that. Or you have Winston's just taking damage to farm nanos, which you can still do, but at least you can shoot people while you're doing it. So it's a little bit more entertaining. Buffing the secondary fire, I don't mind. Doesn't bother me. Graviton Surge was nerfed. It lasts less time now. That's fine. Lucio was nerfed. The self-healing is not as good because he was unbelievably survivable, like a must pick. I don't dislike the change. Bap had his healing ammo increased. Don't dislike the change. Anna's biotic rifle ammo was increased and the biotic nade duration reduced. Biotic nade in Owl is like a win condition. You see it so often that a team will wait for a Bionade, like, they'll Bionade someone, they can't be healed, your Winston dives on them, your Genji or Tracer dives on them, your Lucio is diving on them as well, and there's no peel. You have no Diva typically, So there's no defense matrix, which was normally the counter to like Ana. You'd have a D.Va eating the nades, she'd be eating the sleeps. And even if you got naded, the D.Va could eat the damage coming in. Obviously not Winston damage, not Genji damage. But, yeah, you don't have that anymore. You just have to run away. That's your only counter. So it's very good at creating space. Very good for guaranteeing picks. So they nerfed it. Which, again, I think is fair enough. If you're not going to have D.Va or any other ability to deny the nades coming in, I guess hack is the only other way to do it, but it's on a 1 second, like, addition to your cooldown, so who cares? I think that was fair enough that they changed Ana. And then, what was the final one? Oh, Zen has got more health, makes sense, that's fine, he has to survive longer. And Brigitte, okay, I want to talk about Brigitte a little bit. Her shield bash boop has been doubled. Now, you might not like this. You might say this is heresy, you might think I'm a fool, and you might dislike one much. Can you dislike YouTube videos anymore, or did they remove that feature? You might have removed that feature. I think Brig having the shield stun was a necessary evil in Overwatch. I think her new shield bash feels really unsatisfying. Where's the splash, by the way? Okay. I think the new one is unsatisfying. I think it was fine to have a hero in the game that counters basically dive, Winston and Tracer, and Genji, and to some degree Sombra. I think that was okay. The problem with Brigitte was she was overtuned. Massively overtuned upon release. So overtuned that they've nerfed her maybe like... How many times have they nerfed this fucking hero? It must be like 10 times at least. Probably more than 10 times they've nerfed this hero. And they just can't ever get into it. They can't ever get into a spot that... Beta, by the way. They can't get into a spot where she's not just completely overpowered. Fuck. But I don't think the shield stone was necessarily the evil part of it. I think a shield was the true evil part of it. Like, you're a character with... What is it? 250 shield? 200 health. You're effectively got 450 health. You're a tank, basically, as Brigitte. This was during the time where, in my opinion, that Overwatch were trying to make these, like, hybrid heroes. Like, you had Sombra, who was almost like DPS and support. Like, she had hack health packs. She used to build ult charge off the health pack. So you'd hack a health pack. Your entire team would take damage. And when they lost, or won the fight, sorry. Ideally won the fight. Because if you lost the fight, you'd respawn. But if you won the fight, everyone would run to that hacked health pack. They'd heal off it. And you'd get an EMP every fight. It was super obnoxious and they removed that. She still hacks health packs, she can still heal off them, but they like toned down the support side of it. I don't feel like they ever toned down Brigitte's tank side of things. And I think that's the main source of a problem. It was so hard to kill her in a 1v1. Like, everyone was there, like, she'd put a shield up and like, you're just like, oh, she has 450 health now. I can't kill her. She's lowered, like, the shield would get lowered, and then she'd just shield bash you. And you'd be like, okay, I'm now shield bashed, so I can't do anything. She puts the shield down, she's just mouse wanting you. It requires no skill, she'll throw one of these in. I think the shield bash aspect of the kit was fine. I think, oh my god, the health tanking aspect of it that she could do was not fine. The passive amount of self-healing she could get off Inspire is insane. She can still heal a lot, by the way. There we go. But she obviously doesn't have the CC ability. I think it's fine for supports to have some form of CC. I think it's, again, fine that it's not high skill. What I don't think was fine was how overtuned the rest of the abilities were. I don't think she should have healed as much as she does if she's going to have 450 health. I don't think her ramp packs should heal as fast or as much as they do now. And I kind of feel like it should have honestly put on like a static amount of armor, but like a very low amount of armor. I know it used to do this and it was overpowered on Tracer. It was kind of obnoxious that she countered and enabled Tracer. But I think they could have made something like that still work. But they just needed to make a shield like... They just needed to make it so Brig couldn't just do this entirely. Like, they honestly should have brought it down to like a 50 HP shield. So that she literally... She can use it to survive once, but then she can't shield bash. That's her playoff. Right now, she can use it for survivability, she can shield bash across a gap for movement ability, and then when someone got near her, she'd stun them as well. It was like that trifecto combo. But I think they should have just brought it down that she couldn't... what's the word I'm looking for? Like, she couldn't do everything. She'd have to pick and choose what she does with the shield bash. But I like having versatile abilities. The boop back right now just feels so blah. Like, give me the tracer. How far does this boop? Yeah, like, what the fuck's that about? Like, why is Brigitte ramming this 250 HP into a tracer more than, like, hitting you with the mace? The mace to the face. Like, the mace is, what? Goes to, like, the 0 meter line. Please die again, Tracer, if you don't mind. And now Zen with his boop. Kicks further than Brigitte can push. I don't understand, like, the logic behind this. If you're gonna have Brigitte as, like, booping hero, then, like, make it actually part of a kit. Give her some, like, proper boop. Or make it that she can't shield bash. Just replace the ability. Like, just have it on the whip shot and make the shield something else. What I personally would have done, I wish they'd done this, is they just reworked Brig. I wish they could have, like, tied it into the lore and said, like, Brigitte is now no longer, like, the squire of Reinhardt or whatever she's meant to be. The understudy. And, you know, butcher her up a little bit and make her another tank like Reinhardt. But instead of, like, having the hammer, you have, like, this mace. She could have been a tank. She could have played like a tank. Remove the armor pack ability, maybe, and the rally ability, change it to something slightly different. Like, I don't know exactly how you would do it, but maybe, like, the rally is a speed and damage up, but, like, very small damage, very small speed. Not as much as, like, Lucio's amp, but everyone moves a bit faster, you're all doing more damage. And I think it's, like, a tight AoE, like a death ball type thing. I think that could have been fun, like, I have no healing aspect of it. It could have made sense in the lore, it would have been, you know, it would have been fine. But I just feel like the hero now just feels, she just feels unsatisfying to play as. Kind of cheesy, kind of low skill. Like, the boops feel meh. The boop and the shield bash, it's more like a movement ability, honestly. For fuck's sake. But I'd have done something different to break, but they're still working on it. They're clearly like that her knockback is on the shield bash now, but personally, I don't really care for it. Right, let's go to Zenyatta. Zen had his health increased. Fine, I'm okay with that. He has no escape ability, but, and this is a big but, you know, like I said, they were making hybrid heroes. Zenyatta, realistically, is the highest damage hero in the game, the highest damage output hero. He is crazy. If you want damage, you don't pick Bastion, you pick Zenyatta. If you want pure, unadulterated damage, like, this is a support character, not a DPS character. If you discard them, you do more. And when you take into account what the discard is doing for your entire team and you focus that target, Zenyatta can by far out DPS a Bastion being on the field. It's unbelievable. And for me, that was his major advantage. Zenyatta, if you get on top of him, is this small, squishy ball of metal. I know, that doesn't make any sense. Like, look at what I'm doing to a Roadhog. 700 HP he has. Ooh. I discard him. These are all going to be headshots. Fully charged. Like, you walk through the choke and Zen does that. You can just get a pick off with Zenyatta, the support. That is his advantage. That's what his kit is built around. I think if you're a flanker and you get on Zen, you should be rewarded for that. You should be favoured in the 1v1. I still think they're favoured in 1v1. But why give him a boop? I don't understand. Why make his kick more damage? Again, if Blizzard is so insistent on, like, you know, characters meeting the lore of the hero, why has Zen got the strongest, like, melee ability in the game? And I mean this is the quick melee, I guess. Like, it just doesn't make sense. He doesn't even use his legs. Like, how strong can this guy's leg muscles be? I mean, I know, it's not muscles, but servos, pneumatics, hydraulics, whatever you want to call them. I just don't get why they did this. And all that happens now is you're going to get games where people just troll around in Zen just trying to kick people off the map. I just don't understand. Why have you given him that ability? If you wanted to give him more survivability, like, for against the dive, why not have it something like, if he hits a discarded target, he gets, like, a little bit of shield back or something? Because then you have to hit your shots, and it gives you more an advantage in the 1v1 with Tracer. If you discard the Tracer and you hit a shot, maybe you get, like, 10 health back, or 10 barrier back. Like, make it a skill ability. The fucking kick is just so irrelevant. Like, the Tracer's not going to play close enough to you to kick you. if a Genji blades you, you're going to die before you kick the blade. Now, there are some amusing situations where you might bubble the Zenyatta and he kicks the Genji blade and just runs away from Genji, and, you know, the Genji can't quite catch up again. But I just think it's such a weird ability to give him. But I'm happy that they're trying stuff out, I suppose, but I just feel like it's such a weird ability to have on Zenyatta. Like, this more damaging kick. Like, if Doomfist quick melees you with the Power Gauntlet, whatever it's called, the Power Fist, it does less damage than Zenyatta, giving you his fucking stony, cold, right metal boot. This little fucking metallic monk does more kick damage. I don't understand. And now, we have the most recent patch. I'm aware I've missed some heroes off this. I don't really care about the Sombra one. And Sojourn has multiple changes. So Sojourn's multiple changes. They've reduced power slide, you can use it more often. They've increased the beam size on the railgun. They've increased her shots and how fast she shoots. They're just like, they're tweaking the hero. She's, you know, new. I can accept this. The one that I got a big problem with, and what worries me about Blizzard's idea of, you know, buffing heroes and so on and so forth, and how to, like, make the supports more fun to play, is that I think one of the biggest problems Overwatch 1 had was the ability to passively heal people. It was so insane. Like, you'd get on top of, I don't know, a Mercy, for example, and they would be getting, like, the passive healing off the Mercy thing if you miss a shot. Then on top of that, they might have a Lucio on the team. The Lucio's just passively healing them as well. Or they have a Bap and he's passively healing them. And then he's just doing this and they're getting, like, passive heals off the splash pad. There was so much healing in Overwatch 1, it was kind of obnoxiously absurd. And that combined with the high tank health pools was why you ended up thinking, like, goats being a thing, which forced 2v2. And then why you had double shield being a part of a thing. Because again, you could get insane passive healing, along with insane damage on the supports, by the way. But I'd have toned back the passive healing. Like, cap it out in some regards. Like, I don't think Brig Zen should ever be, like, a really good combo. Or, I don't know. I feel like Lucio, like, you should have your passive heal, like, the one that can do this AoE healing, synergizing with a targeted heal. I think that's the best place to have the support design. And I don't know how the best way to do this. If, like, just passive healing is reduced by some regards. And what do I mean by this? I mean, like, Lucio's amp heals. Maybe not the amp heal, but the heal itself, just the passive heal. Combined with, like, you know, the left shift, that gives a passive heal around you. The Inspire procs of Brigitte. It's just so much passive damage. You get into situations, especially if you, like, you animate someone and, you know, you amp up in Lucio, you can do, like, 500 or 600 damage to a support and not kill them. They'll live through it, because the healing is so insane. And what I hate the most about this is Bap, who has been in a strong position for a while, because he does pretty insane damage. Like, his DPS on his gun was very comparable to Soldier. It might even be higher than Soldier right now. I'm not 100% certain on that, so don't take my word for it. But he could put out insane DPS. He had very good AoE healing with these grenades. Like, look, I can aim here and I'm hitting both of them. Now, it does more when you hit one direct than if you hit one indirectly. I can't heal you. But, like, that's the passive. If I hit him direct, it, like, nearly brings him back to full. But it's still really good. Like, if you're playing, like, a death ball and you're just shooting the ground, I know I can't hit myself, but you can pump out some crazy healing on Baptiste. It's unbelievable, honestly. And this isn't exactly fun and interactive gameplay. It's staring at the floor and shooting it with your grenades. And then, again, you have this bit of his kit, which is almost like... You have this bit of his kit, which was almost like the Inspire. It's almost like Lucio's passive. Have the servers gone down? Have I been kicked out? Has it gone? Is the recording over now? Oh. It's trying. Hey, there we go. What was I saying? Yeah, we have all this passive healing already. He has the ability, what's it called? Regenerative Burst, right? Yeah. That heals himself, and I understand that he needs an ability that heals himself, but it also heals a little bit other people around him. Why have they buffed this to an insane degree? Not just a little bit. It now gives you an instant heal buff for no skill check. Look at that healing. Off one button on a 13-second cooldown. If you're like, I don't know, a McCree or something, or, sorry, McCree, Cassidy, or a soldier and you do a bunch of damage, all I have to do is do this, make them invulnerable. The 200 health, in 2 seconds. And I basically didn't have to aim there. Now, I know to get damage out of him, like, he has got a pretty strict aim requirement. But I just think buffing the like, if you're going to buff skills that are not skill checks in any way, shape, or form, like, this I don't really count as a skill check. I know they have buffed in the sense that you have to hit the target to do more damage. That I'm fine with. But I don't think it's healthy to have it combined with this. Regeneration around people. I don't think it's healthy to then have this on him as well. Like, I think you just can never have this hero with meta. I think it's unhealthy for the game to be in that state. Because it's too easy to play, honestly. Now, again, there are comps which make BAP not as good. Like, if you're going to play, like, I don't know, a Farid dive comp, BAP is never going to be good because you don't get much value out of your amp matrix, which is your ultimate. It's harder to hit shots if people get further away because it's all well and good me saying, like, what if you stood there and healing people? Or if I'm, like, over here and, like, on a little different form of geometry. I mean, it's always easy when I'm higher than them, but what if they're higher than me? I can't really simulate this very easily. But, like, it's harder to aim the arc when you're, like, below someone like this. That's way harder than just being stood next to them. But, I don't know. I just feel like they should have capped the passive healing. But equally, you have to make sure that the support role is fun to play. It feels like if you make this great outplay, you can keep someone alive. I feel like it has to be an outplay, though. And my worry with this Regenerative Burst now, with how much of a burst healer it is like, and there's no skill associated with it. I think it just feels really unsatisfying just to do that and heal. And if I can lower my own health, it does more to me as well if I'm below 50 health, right? So it heals for 50 instantly and then 50 over time. So that's the same as what it used to do. It used to heal passively for 100 over time. But if I'm below 50% health, it does 50% more healing to me. I think it does to the bot as well. Is it just me or the bot? Yeah, it does it to the bot. So if I let the bot go below... Am I oh, the support passive, I forgot. So if I start taking shots for this bot now, who I won't restore, he's below 50% health. We'll get there. So this will heal me for 75. Like, look at that heal. That is so big. It's crazy how big that is. It's like amp healing with Lucio. But at least Lucio has the wall riding stuff. The amp heal doesn't last that long. There are counters to it. I mean, there are counters to this, I guess, anting people. But it's such a strong left ability, considering that his E ability as well. It's practically like an ultimate. Like, this ability just to stop people from dying is crazy. And, you know, people are going to go, oh, you just shoot the lamp. Why not just shoot the lamp? Well, in 13 seconds, I'll show you the problem with just shooting the fucking lamp. You can't always shoot the lamp. And this is what good Baptiste players will do. They will be playing on a corner with your team, because often players play corners. And you'll be pushing in, and it's like, oh no, my friend is about to die. I'll put the lamp here. He's now in immortality. This robot, if it's an enemy player, cannot shoot that. They'd have to come all the way into the enemy team, bearing in mind they can't kill anyone, to shoot that. I think Bap is in a pretty unhealthy state right now. I don't even think he's that strong in Overwatch 2. I think there's definitely better picks, in part because he works so nicely with Ryan. And we have seen a bit of Bap in the Owls. I have seen a bit of him on the quick play ladder, but not that much. It's definitely less obnoxious than when you use double shield just to really spam stuff out through the matrix. At least the Bap Brian comp feels good, but if you're running Bap and Lucio, it's so obnoxious to kill targets. It's kind of crazy. And then finally, Mercy. You've always been able to do this super jump tech. It's now actually... I'm looking at the wrong thing. It's now actually an ability. So if I crouch as I do that, I do a super jump. Throughout the game's, like, basically the history of the game, you could do a crouch shift and cancel it with jump, and you would do a super jump. You can still do that, weirdly. And you get, like, a little bit more height, I think. So, like, the bug still persists, but they've decided rather than, you know, fixing the bug, which I think was fair enough because it's actually one of the few bits of like true skill in Mercy's kit. And people say Mercy's like a really low skill hero. Sure, if you're doing this is pretty low skill. But actually the movement attack associated with playing Mercy is pretty high, honestly. It's higher compared to someone like Moira, for example. Like, just consistently staying out of the sight lanes of enemy players. But I'm not sure giving her, like, part of the nice thing about it being a bug was it was kind of hard to do than being easy. You can just sort of stay in the air now. And I've seen people doing it better than me, just staying, you know, permanently up like this. And, like, if, you know, the bot is down there, and, like, let's say we're playing Night Market or Day Market as is at the moment, and your team's going through towards the point, I can just do this permanently. And what the fuck are the enemy team going to do? Whoops. Okay, I fucked it up. I still got muscle memory for pushing space, it's part of the problem. Like, I can just do this, and you can never shoot me unless you go on the flank. Like, it's really strong as an ability. Why do I keep doing it with space now? There we go. I think this was an obnoxious change again. I know why they've been changing, because the sport feels really unfun to play right now. Partly because you are just literally El Presidente, you're the #1 target for people. If someone wants to assassinate someone, they go for the support first. Lucio can wall ride around, he can boot people away, he has speed, he can get away from DPS. So Lucio becomes like a must pick. And he's one of the few heroes that can still like peel to some degree. Like, you know, if Winston jumps on you, you just do that and boot them away. And like, you know, amp speed away and just run off. Run off to the hill. So they nerfed Lucio's self-healing so you can actually kill the little frog. Which I think was fair enough, because I couldn't see any way that it wouldn't be run. The only way I could see this guy never being run is if, like, a really good spam meta happened and Bat Zen was picked. In which case you don't really get much value anymore because people won't be diving on you. And you cannot put out as much damage as those two heroes, so you would never be played. But yeah, this hero basically has become a must-play in the beta, and he really hasn't changed. Even with the change to Lucio, I still think he's the best support pick. Then a lot of people are picking Anna, and she is the true El Presidente. The nades enable so much, you have no divas on the field typically anymore to eat nades. So getting anti is brutal, so they've had to bring down the anti. The problem with Zen is he had no survivability, so they've given him this kick. I don't think it fits with the character, and I don't think it fits with his weaknesses. I think there should be some supports that are easy to kill with flankers. That should be the reason you pick flankers. Equally, I think there are some supports, i.e. Brig, who should be very hard to kill with flankers. I think the part of the problem with Brig's kit, though, was that she was too low skilled for the amount that she countered the dive. But I still think she should counter the dive. I still think she should have had a stun. I just think they should have brought back her healing numbers a little bit. So that she was maybe good in low ranks, maybe just good against like pure dive. And by that I mean like Winston Tracer dive, maybe like Winston Tracer Sombra dive. But if you ran like dive with a projectile as well, she drops off considerably. Like she can't really do much to like an Ashe, for example. I mean she can't now, even with the 250 health, but you know she has a lot of survivability. Like you bring out Ashe, she blocks a shot with a shield, she shield bashes behind cover. I think she should, if she uses a shield to block like a big damage shot, it should just be gone. She shouldn't be able to use it for movement, she shouldn't be using the stun. And I think that'd be a more fun way to play the hero. I honestly think that would be better. Keep a stun, nerf a shield. Nerf a healing a bit. And I think you'd have a good hero there. Maybe not fun to play. Maybe a hero again that should be tuned so she's never meta. And then just work on someone else who has more skill against the flankers. Again, this is hard to do, but, you know, I'm not paid the big bucks for this, so I don't know what you would actually do. Okay, I think the final thing I want to talk about, as we've already gone on for an hour and 34 minutes, holy shit, is the new game mode, Push. In fact, do you know what? I know I said in a video coming up that was the last time I'm going to play this game. What are the odds of me queuing into a Push map? What are the odds? Really low, right? But think of if I do. I'll talk about the Push as I play a map. I don't love Push. I don't hate it. Come on, game. You did me dirtily. I don't hate Push. I don't love it either. I'm also going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to leave the voice so that I don't accidentally push on the mic. I don't hate, I don't love it. It's better than 2 CP in my opinion, but it has definitely got some issues. I think part of the issues for, again, the hype you want to bring behind the game is I don't think it's the most fun game mode to watch in OWL. It has kind of got the problem that the first, you know, the first 7 minutes are kind of irrelevant. It doesn't really matter because it only matters what you do on the last, like, push that you do. If you're the last team pushing it, all you have to do is beat the objective. So I can never help but think with push that the dominant team can quite easily lose that game mode if you, like, if you fuck up an ult cycle at the end. I think the opposing team can win 3 fights and win push, whereas you could win, like, you know, you could win like 10 fights and lose. I don't think that's a great state for the game to be in. But they can tweak the game mode. My other slight issue with it is it's kind of obnoxious to follow and obnoxious to see what the objective is. Like, it's not like 5 CP was where, you know, you have like a number on the screen. I know it sounds stupid, but just having a number on the screen, a viewer can easily relate a number onto a screen. Oh, that's not my smartest idea. To who's winning. The little push robot thing and like what the little diamonds do where they move to spawn, I just don't think it comes across clearly immediately, like, what is going on. And that's generally been the consensus I've seen from the YouTube chat, who maybe include people that, and this is the YouTube OWL chat, who may be casual players who've just seen, like, oh, OWL Overwatch League, let's see what this is all about. And then they tune in to see push, and it's like, there's a robot on the screen, and there's these diamonds, and like, there's a filled-in meter. I don't think it's the most easy to observe mode in the world. I don't think it's particularly well balanced. I think the advantages it's got is it's more fun to play. But I think at the pro scene, you've already seen people kind of like solving a bit of the riddle behind it. And one of the things I've noticed, and again, if you'd watched my OWL Week 1 series, on the push mode, there are some teams now that won't push the objective any further. Like, they'll do one big push, and then anytime they win a fight, they'll just not let the robot push that far. Like, they'll push it back to the middle and leave it. And I think the reason they're doing that is that, why would you push the robot closer to the enemy spawn? Like, it doesn't make sense. I know it's the objective to win the game, but at the core of it, why would you do it? They have... oh shit. They have a target to beat. They have to beat it. It's up to them. The onus is on them to use ults to break you. You can just, like, tap it, maybe move it a little bit further if you win the middle fight again, like the next fight. But I think it has its weaknesses. I definitely think it's the worst of the 4 game modes right now in the game. I think it's better than 2 CP, though. I think it's generally more fun to play. I think the map designs are better. Can we kill this guy? Team. Alright. Fuck! I wanted to keep him alive. Okay, we're just not going to push forwards. That's fine. Okay, someone's on the flank. A ball, presumably. But yeah, I don't know. There are probably tweaks that can be made to the game mode to make it easier to view. But I don't think they're quite there yet. So I'm surprised that they've kind of pushed the mode so much. I know it's like their big new thing. Probably the biggest update they brought was the new game mode. It'd be nice if our DPS could get out the choke, by the way. Yeah, I'm surprised they went so heavily into it. For fuck's sake. And the other thing I guess I want to say about maps is that Man, it was so much harder to do this with a game on. I shouldn't have done it. I don't know, like... Okay, you release this new game, the beta of the new game, and say, like, look, it's all new, all the bells and whistles behind it. And then... I'm not going to make it. I didn't make it. And then you remove all the 2CP maps. I understand you don't want it in your game mode anymore. But you've basically removed content. You haven't just, you know, added 4 new maps. You've removed all the 2CP ones. You've removed Vanna because you're working on it. You've removed... what else have they removed? I can't even remember right now what other maps. Junktown. Junktown is gone. Like, they've removed so many fucking maps. I think the game has less content than the base game. So I'm not surprised that some people have come back as the casual and gone, like, the map pool is really, like, stale. Like, you cycle through the maps really quickly. There's one new hero, and you're selling this as a new game. I'm not surprised it had such bad backlash. I mean, I guess I understand why they had to do it. They were so, like, linked into OWL that they couldn't reverse the decision to say, like, listen, we're going to do 6v6 for another year. This game is not ready yet. We have to have a working beta by May, because they pushed the OWL season basically as late as they could have done. But it blows my mind that they've released, like, the beta as it is. For as long as it has, and it's going to go off again. And what have we got? You know, we have a new map. We have, 4 new maps. We have 1 new hero. We have Push, which isn't a fantastic game mode by all considerations. What else do we have? That's about it, right? And then you've removed a few maps. Oh, we have the scoreboard as well. I guess I should mention the UI. The UI, I think, is worse than the first game. There, I said it. I think the ult meter looks worse. I think the health bar is harder to see. I think the scoreboard, whilst good that it's in there, looks ass. I know they said the scoreboard is going to change. This is just placeholder. But, you know, they need to work on it. I think the score thing, which they have changed already, they patched it once. I think it looks worse than the original one. It was too small, you couldn't see headshots. I still don't think they fixed the boop bug, have they? Where if you boop someone off the map, it shows them as the opposite team. Which is really fucking annoying. I'm trying to think of what else. Goodbye. Fuck. Okay. Yeah, overall, I just think... I think there are things to be optimistic about. It sounds like I've been mainly negative this video, and to some degree I have. 5v5 is not as bad as I thought it was going to play as. That's one of the positives. I think the new maps are generally pretty good, other than one of them. I'm quite confident that, based on the 3 of them, that the new maps they're going to add, presumably later on in the beta, will be better. Fuck. Right, where's that? Why am I just fighting the Doomfist? Yeah, I'm confident that it can get better. My worry is that they're going to take too long to make it better. That there basically won't be a player base. So, like, there won't be people buying these adventures, or what you want to call them. Because who's going to play the game? Okay, they have fixed the boop thing. I tell a lie. Where the fuck's she gone? Did she push? Okay, let's just wall ride for a bit, because the Doom doesn't really have an answer to this. Okay, he has one. La la la. Eventually the Sombra's gonna hack me. Assassinate! I missed her. We're gonna win this, I believe. Me and Torbjorn win this. Look at me. Yeah, I think this is basically all I've got to say. I can definitely see a world where this game is great, but I'm beginning to see the reality that I think before they get there, the player base will just be truly the most hardcore players. They won't appeal to new people. It won't earn them enough money when the PvE comes out, and then like the project will, basically the IP will cease. I'll be intrigued to see if Microsoft do take over Blizzard, what they'll do with the IP. It's kind of a pity that it's happened during the development and not before it, because I think, led by a team of Microsoft, this game could have been a... I just think it could have been great. I think it could have been one of the better, like, esports. I think it could have been one of the more fun games. But they've just... Frankly, they just failed. Okay, I just got one-shot by Zed. Alright, that's my piece. I'll finish this video, why not? This is the true last creme de la Overwatch 2 beta first version. Why did you throw in Mortality Field at me? Alright, probably shouldn't be fighting the Zen at range. How are we winning this? I think the top turret is carrying for us. I'm trying. Alright, Millie has joined me in the office as well. Get rolled. Wonderful. Alright, she's joining me. How did you get in? I'm slightly worried that both my cats can open the door, by the way. Oh, by the way, the Overwatch 2 video has basically ended! I wish we'd lost 2-0 now. I could have finished it better that way. I'm rapidly trying to think of another topic to talk about, but I think I've covered everything. I guess I could say, you know, let me know what you think in the comments below. That'd be fun. If you're, like, casual, tell me how you felt. If you felt that it's more fluid than you played it before, maybe it's the first time you've seen it and you might, you know, you might just be finding, like, it's a lot of fun. I guess it can't be the first time you played it now that I think about it, because you needed an Overwatch 1 game code to get into the beta. So you must have played it. That is the worst anti I've ever seen. By worst, I mean it's really bad for us. Live. Oh, she was one. Also, if you're like a veteran and maybe you don't like the change, I've definitely heard a lot of people say that they're less fond of going to 5v5 than they were in 6v6, but they think the game is more fun. Then let me know. Perfect. Fuck that Trank. Our ball just wants to die. I'm carrying. This seems bad. What am I on? 3.38k damage. Oh my god, it tops on 30k. Also, let me know how much toxicity you've seen in the game, because I've seen a decent amount, honestly. Which, again, isn't ever great for a community. What the fuck are you doing? Okay, let's just beat to win. Okay, that was a bit early. But, there we go. The final game of Overwatch 2 that I'm going to play was a win. On Lucio, where we carried 10k healing, 4k damage. And they are my thoughts. Before one of our fucking players says some gamer words, I'll end the video. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, why don't leave a like and subscribe, everything helps me out, and I'll see you on the next beta. Goodbye.